Hello, Opening Pathways viewers. This is Tom Lenoble. It's great to have you with us today. I have a great guest for you. I have Elisabeth Bykoff from Boxsy, and we're going to learn all about what Boxsy does and about Elisabeth today. Welcome to the show, Elisabeth.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
It's great to have you with us. Please, let's get started. I'd love for you to tell our viewers a little bit about Boxsy, and I really want to know what inspired you to start this company.
Yeah, so Boxsy, we're building the first two-sided AI-enabled fundraising platform. We're really focused on that right now. It's a big pain point for startup founders, and we also want to build more radical transparency, I call it, with investors, so they can make better investment decisions and re-engage with us founders as soon as possible. So we're kind of changing the game a bit on that, and it's a big change in mindset, and hopefully, people are going to embrace it. But it's just a start to it. The big vision is really to build an entire agentic chief operating officer for startup founders, and then kind of the first agentic analyst for investors, and really building that, very different venture ecosystem and all the infrastructure for that. So, yeah, how did it come along, if I can say that? Yeah, I had been in, the venture ecosystem for about 8 years. And when ChatGPT came out at the end of 2022, I thought if I have one more startup founder asking me about how to build a B2B sales process in Salesforce or HubSpot, I'm shooting myself in the head. Literally, that's what I was like. There has to be a better way now. The tech is here to help more founders, right? Versus, them doing Google search or pinging the network, or, how do we take all this valuable information that exists to really guide founders from an operations perspective? And very frankly, originally I was thinking ops in a box, right? That's what I was trying to figure out something. And then with AI going so fast in the last 2 years, right, it has evolved to what it is today, through feedback and, now orchestration and all that. But yeah, that's how it came about.
So I can tell you're excited about it. I want to know, when was the moment that you said, "This is it. I know I'm onto something."
Oh, it actually took some time. I was gun shy. I thought about it at the end of 22. I didn't start talking to people until February 2023, and being like, okay, do I really want to do this? And start really pinging the network and talking to founders that I knew, even early stage operators, to try to define, hey, is there something there? And it took me about 6 months to take, all the pain points I had heard, build a bit of a lo-fi clickable prototype, come back to them, go back out to them and say, hey, do you think there's something there? And most of I think 90% of them were like, oh my God, this is like startup for dummies. They called it, this is great, but this is way too much for an MVP. And so, doing that validation, finally I kicked myself in the butt in September of 23 and said, okay, let's really go at it. Not full time quite yet. So still, like calculated risk from my side, but I really felt like, okay, there's something there. Let's go for it and see if we can get to something that would be very valuable for founders. And so that's really what happened, right? Having that validation, and that feedback, of about, yeah, 90% of the people I had talked to be like, yeah,
Wow.
let's do it.
I like ops in a box, kind of fun. So tell me, what was the first challenge you faced as a leader?
Well, the first challenge, I face, it might not be have the first, but early on, is I am building tech and I'm not a coder. I hadn't coded in 25 plus years since my last, project in engineering school, which was not Python, it was C plus plus, you name it. So I knew I had to find somebody to help me, kind of a partner in crime. And again, originally I didn't set myself to be a solo founder, right? I was like, there was somebody that was interested in joining me, and then for personal reason he was like, no, I'll be an investor and advisor, but I have kids to feed. And I'm like, that's fair. And so I needed that technical partner in crime, and it took me, actually, I'm still dealing with it. I've been through 3 CTOs and didn't work out, some for personal reasons, had to step away, some just, whatever. And so that's been the constant challenge because I'm building tech. So yeah,
Yeah. If you could go back to day one, would you do everything exactly the same, or would you do something
no,
different?
I would do it differently.
What would
Yeah.
you do?
One of the things that's very interesting is as we didn't start building until August of last year, so a year ago. And a year ago, the tools to build software were different, right? Lovable, which I don't know if the prompting was not available. It came out in February of this year. Cursor was there, but not really. It was more in the fall of 24. And so now, all the money I spent, the good old-fashioned way, if I had waited 6 months, 8 months, I would have been able to build so much faster. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yeah.
And so that's the thing that's constantly in my mind, especially when you talk to an investor, which is like, well, if I had waited, I would have way more runway right now and I would have built it differently. And so, yeah, there's been definitely a change there. I think I would have spent more time or finding that tech partner in crime also, I would have just, hey, it's okay, just take your time on that versus maybe wanting to push and keep moving. I would definitely have done it
That
slightly.
brings up a great question. We live in this time where technology's just feels like it's just racing. Now, I have to admit, I remember I watched one of the first faxes happen and I thought it was magic. And then we all, of course, had email and we were like, oh my God. And then the internet came and then social media. Well, I don't know, this time we're in right now with AI, I get to talk to a lot of AI tech CEOs and founders, and I'm just amazed at the different areas people are using tech in. And as it's racing forward, I think to myself sometimes, how do we balance that with sustainability? How do we keep the lights on and keep up with technology? Thoughts?
It's actually a scary part of being a founder in this time, like right in this time, for two reasons. And not scary in the bad way per se, but to your point of sustainability and constantly trying to keep up with what's going on. One, sometimes you have to make decision on, hey, we're going to build this way. Well, tomorrow something can come out and you're like, that's it. We have to go rebuild. You know what I mean? Or we're stuck in a way that we spend time doing this and we don't have to do that anymore, right? So there's a lot of anxiety, I'm going to call it, maybe that's a bit strong, but anxiety on keeping up with tech to incorporate or building a certain way with all the tech. I mean, ChatGPT 5 is out now, right? So everybody's been trying it out. So that's number one. Number two, there is also, because of all those advances in AI, there's a lot of tools out there that have been created from a business perspective to really increase your productivity or just start doing things that you couldn't do on your own. And usually it was a person that you would have to hire. And now it's like, no, you don't need to do that. Just set this up. And so there's also a lot of pressure on that to find the tools or set up the processes that can multiply a founder or a team of two and can constantly same thing. You have to keep up what's out there and all that. So you're on all fronts constantly bombarded with information on new AI tools, new AI protocols, you name it, and you have to keep up with that. And it adds to actually I would say the typical stress of being a founder, right? And I know you've seen that, right, in your experiences. But now you have that additional layer of, well, it's already stressful. We're going to have our ups and downs, but we also have to keep up on both sides, product and business, on how much can we leverage AI. And I think that's, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I
it's a
know I'm
struggle,
hearing from
right?
some companies they're being asked by their board or even founders asking their staff, it's like, why aren't you using this technology? And at the same time they're being asked, why are we having a budget issue? And it seems like there's a convergence that hasn't caught up with itself. I know I had an argument with Chat GTP 5 yesterday. And I had to get amused at myself because I'm arguing with it. And of course, it makes you always right. So you always feel good in the end because you're absolutely right. But then it did it again, said, and then, I finally told it I could do this myself in shorter time. I'm thinking, what are you doing? So tell me, did you ever take a personal risk on this company that nobody knows about?
A personal risk. Well, it is a personal risk just starting the company, to be frank. I mean, that's the one that nobody knows about. I don't know if nobody knows about it, but I think, some founders try not to put any of their personal funds into their ventures, sometimes and get a raise early. I didn't do that. I thought, hey, I'm going to go in, so I'm going to put some of my, monetary savings, let's call it in that. I don't know if everybody knows that, but that's something I wanted to do to keep independence and keep moving. Some people would say, hey, don't put your money in there, but
Yeah,
so
yeah.
um,
Well, you feel like you truly own a piece of it, right? It's kind there's
yeah.
something about it, I think. So, all right, I want to go back. I want to go back and back. I want to know about early role models. We all have them. I hear stories about them. I'm curious, who were your early role models?
So if you really go really, really back, my parents were big travelers and my dad worked at IBM for 20 years. So I guess, I am a blue chip baby. But they met when they were both at IBM. So in Nice, in France. And so I think there was definitely me wanting to emulate the travel, which I really love anyway. They gave me that bug. And then um, I think subconsciously wanting to be in tech, and even though I wanted to be a film director, so that's a different story. When I was a kid, I think I ended up wanting to emulate, my dad in the fact that he did start tech and then ended up on the business side of things. And I think that was totally subconscious, by the way. This is my daddy issues, right? So I think that started there. And then after that, starting my career at PwC, a lot of the role models I had were partners, male partners, actually. There was not as many female partners at the time when I first started. And, there was, when you start in consulting, you don't sell products, you sell people. So people are your product, and it's very important how you're coaching and treating people if you want to be successful in that line of business. And I had a couple of partners, I mean, directors that coached me and partners that I really felt really taught me that side of the business in general, that I was able to take that even after consulting of, hey, this is how you want to treat people, coach people, your team, anything like that. And then also the way that they always kept, a door open, despite being partners, there was less of that hierarchical. Uh,
Yes.
and so a lot of themes around that, to be frank, stayed with me, and I wanted to, continue on that vein. I didn't have somebody specifically public that was a role model. I was never that groupie, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's an English word, but that's a French
It
word too.
is.
So never the groupie or that thing. It was more people that I've met, along the years and work and personally that were more role models for me. But
Yeah. What's been the biggest turning point for Boxy so far?
we actually pivoted in the last few months. We thought we were going to cater mainly to startups, and investors and ecosystem partners really liked what we were doing and asked for the other side, right, of the table, if that makes sense, and something that would really help them and help the startups. And that's been a pivot where we've had to build, really quickly something else to cater for that. And so that's what we're doing right now, like going through that change and restarting the growth and traction and securing pilots. So yeah, even in early stage, that, right? It's
Yes, yes,
the
yes.
twist and turn. So that's been a big one versus thinking that we were just going to cater to startups and small and medium.
Interesting. We
Yeah.
have people that watch this that are, thinking about starting something or an emerging leader. So how does Elizabeth know when to pivot or just push through?
Oh my. I don't think I have an exact science for that. Um, I think it's a combination of two things. I am a very gut feeling person in I don't make all my decision on guts, but I do follow my intuition, or at least I take that into account. And funnily, I really take everything in my gut. So it's kind of funny. It's actually true. And then the second piece is really around validation, right? I think especially on a pivot that I just described, I didn't expect it, right? I mean, we knew there was something there, but I didn't think this was going to be the main focus at all. It was more like a byproduct of helping founders and small and medium businesses. And then as I kept seeing signs, I kind of dived into those signs and say, okay, let's go validate. Really, let's every investor, every connection in my network that works with founders, let's ask them, right? Just, is that valuable? How are you doing this? is there something there? So I think it's, again, calculated risk, right? You have that intuition pulling you and showing you the signs, and then doing a bit of my analytical side that
Yeah.
just goes
Yeah.
and be like, okay, I think we have something there. And so far, knock on wood, I think it's going to prove true, but we're not, it's a
Yeah.
process, right? So
What did those early days at Boxy teach you about trust?
I'm too trustful. I give too much the benefit of the doubt to people. I don't know. I think that's a personality thing. I'm despite being French, and yes, we can complain a lot. That's true. I'm not a very I wouldn't say negative. I wouldn't say cautious either. I don't know what the right word is, but I have a tendency to go into any relationship with giving people the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, well, prove me wrong, right? Versus, oh, let's think about all the bad things that could happen.
Yes.
And I think in some cases it was, it helped me in my career, but in some cases it didn't. I think I was too trustful, and I think that was true too with Boxy. I trusted some people early on that I shouldn't have, right? I should
Yeah.
have my gut on
Yeah.
this.
I've heard for some other founders that to still trust but verify has been the theme.
That's
What
fair. That's
core,
absolutely fair.
what core leadership principles have helped you scale the team and have an impact? Tell us about you as a leader.
Yeah. It's funny. I just number one, I don't know if it's number one, but it's definitely always on the list, is as a leader, try to have fun. If you're not having fun, you're most likely and again, you can't have fun 100% of the time, but if you're not having fun as a leader, or you're enjoying what you're doing, it's going to be really, really hard to motivate people around you and bring people around you that, are going to commit or anything like that. So I always try to, think about that and say, hey, am I doing something I'm still enjoying, right? Because if not, there's really no point. Like, you're just going to be miserable, and you're going to be put everybody with you miserable. Um, Another thing is, I think especially at the beginning, when you start a business, you have a tendency to be involved in everything and micromanage. And I've never been a really micromanager, to be very frank. And maybe that's why also I I trusted and not verified. But you can I like setting expectations. I'm very structured. Let people run, and then to your point, verify, monitor, and if it doesn't work out, I think that gives a way more independence to the people around you and building that trust. And so it's not always easy. It's easier said than done in some cases, especially at the beginning of a business. But that's something that really that you gotta give people a chance, I think. Um, and then the last thing, I mean, it's not the last, but for me, it's all about, again, I think that's a leftover from consulting, which is coaching, right? So even as Boxy, I've had 5 interns this summer, from high school to senior. And, you're like, my God, this is going to take so much of your time. And it's true, you have to coach them way more at the beginning. But the idea is that, at the end of the day, they still deliver and they still help you out.
Yes.
Obviously, you can't have the same expectation as a senior resource, but I really enjoy, like, really helping and supporting those young talent. Actually, I've had a lot of good outcomes with young talent. And so that's something that I always try to do, even as a leader, even with people that maybe I have worked with that were more senior. That's the part I enjoy, is that coaching and, okay, let me help you out.
Yeah.
Let's figure out what's going. So I try to
Yeah,
do that.
I like to remember that we were all young and green
Yeah.
at one point and needed someone to guide us too. It's really important. So when the stakes are high, how do you make decisions?
Most likely poorly, like any other leader. No, I'm kidding. Or maybe, 90% okay and 10% still mistakes, because that's usually what happened. I don't think anybody has a perfect track record of making decision under pressure, but it's interesting. I try to my mom will tell me, you're so logical and rational. So yeah, I have a tendency to put stuff on paper and just, you know, diagram it. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, right? Pull the facts down. I do like bouncing what I'm thinking with other people, whether it's mentors, coach, my husband, you name it, friends sometimes that don't always know exactly what you're doing. So you get a complete different perspective and you're like, oh, never thought about it that way. So that's really how I try to do it, as much as possible. Like I said, I don't think I have a perfect track record, but I try, but
Yes, yeah, it's a progression, right? Uh,
Progression, yeah.
so, so tell me, what's something that about leadership that nobody ever prepared you for?
I think, there's this, again, I'm trying to put myself when I was, younger, starting out, right? And wanting to be a leader. There's that sexiness of the role, right? Hey, I want to be a leader. I want to be a manager and then a director. And then I wanted to be a partner, right? I wanted to people to listen to my strategy and how we're going to execute and I'm going to have impact on this, right? And I think a lot of people talk about that. Not a lot of people talk about how hard it is. Like as a young talent, you're like, oh, I want to be the CEO of this, or this is what I aim, like that linear path to leadership. And then you realize, one, it's not linear, you're completely twisted to get there.
Totally.
And then it's hard, that it's not that glamorous at all. And along the way, it's funny, I think you meet people that don't want it. And not like, it's not judgmental at all. I'm not saying that in a like positive, negative way, that have a completely different take on life and what they want. And, nobody talks to you about that when you just get out of college, right? It's like, you gotta,
Gotta go, gotta get up there.
you gotta go. And again, I'm talking when, we started, right? Now it's different. It looks like they all want to do 9 to 5 and whatever else, work-life balance. But, and so I think that's the piece that you're not getting told, not as much, I think. It's a bit of the peer pressure of, hey, you got to get there. That's what you have to aim for. Now, do you really want it? And then it's pretty hard. So you better want it.
Yes, yes. Get a little lonely at the top too at times. So, what impact are you most proud of? And I'm not interested in the public ones. I'm interested personally. What impact are you most proud of personally?
I am actually, my biggest accomplishment is seeing all my coachees that have succeeded to become partner or have gone to other companies and have succeeded, and seeing them grow. That's my personal,
The best.
yeah.
Yes, I think I love this idea that if you're a leader, if you want to be a real leader, a true leader, it's about how you develop other leaders who will then develop other leaders. Really the truth. It's really how it works. So, how do you define success beyond metrics? Let's put the metrics aside. What does success look like for you?
One of them is like, am I happy? I mean, and then again, happy is like, what's definition of happy, right? We all have a different definition of happiness, right? What makes us happy, what works for us. Um, and to be honest, I've always tried to have that as a criteria. It's not quantifiable. I don't think you can do that, but you know, um, is what are you doing something where you're happy or you're learning? I'm a big learner. I love learning on any topic or every topic. So am I still learning? I can't get bored easily. So I better be learning constantly. I'm not gonna lie. So there's a lot of things like that, more qualitative to your point. So definitely, am I enjoying what I'm doing? Am I learning? Am I having fun? And then am I having an impact? And it doesn't have to be, to your point, the public, oh my God, she's, created this company that's multi-billion dollar, created jobs, great, right? I think it's also, even if it doesn't work, like have I coached people? Have I managed to change the game in the venture ecosystem, at least made people think, right? Is there a way to do something differently? Was I a bit, unconventional that it got people talking, right? To maybe I'm not going to be one to take it to the finish line, but somebody else will, right? And so there's a lot of that too in terms of impact for me that I enjoy that more than, just to your point, just the metrics. Of course, you need the metrics to run the business and
Gotta
stay
have them.
alive, right? But, I think there's other things in life that also has a lot of impact that doesn't have to be just dollars. And
Yes, yes. Tell us, how does Elizabeth navigate pushback from within or without the company?
well, my French side, when I was very young, not very well. Um, well, that's not exactly true, but you would take it not personally at all. So that's not a French thing. Like we get feedback pretty well. We don't take it personally. We're kind of used to that because French people are pretty direct. So you're born and raised with like this constant, no filter. Um, But I think when you're younger, we always think we know better. It's somehow we have this youth, right?
Yes.
This aura from us. I don't know how we get this, that like, oh, we know better, or yes, I know what you're talking. I don't know. And so I think I learned my lesson really quickly in consulting, got a few slaps on my wrist and be like, okay, tone it down. This is, you got to learn, you got to earn your spot. You got to, you know what I mean? Like prove yourself, which was great. So for me, it's, you have to learn to take the punches, to be honest. That's really what happened for me. It's like I just getting more and more punches. Not like I was getting punched and constant feedback all the time, but especially in this job, you're talking to investors and a lot of them like, no, I'm not cutting you a check, right? And no, I don't think this is a good idea. So you have to learn how to take it. And there's always even if you don't agree with it, there's always a silver line, like something that you can, at least a nugget you can take, right? Your story's not resonating or something. So you kind of had to build that shield, protect yourself, but then take those nuggets and then really incorporate that. And again, I think professionally, I do it better than personally sometimes. Don't tell
Ah,
me that, but then when it's a different reaction how I take the punches. But yeah, I think that's something you learn,
yeah, yeah.
time. But yeah.
What value do you protect the most when no one's watching?
My downtime. That's really what I try to,
Be sure it happens.
yeah, making sure it happens. And bear with me, right? The last few months have been, I bent the rules for myself a couple of weekends, or I went on vacation that was not ended up a vacation that was not great. But I usually try to really protect at least a day a week. That is, no matter what I do, it doesn't matter, but
It's your day.
it's my day, right? And it's, again, I'm not sitting on the couch doing nothing. I can if I want to, but it's just trying to find that downtime. And it's a bit of like self-care, to your point, like self-care and trying to stay in the marathon, stay in the race.
Yes,
So
yes, yeah.
I will
I
have a
remember
tendency to
I used to travel and I would take a long weekend and I would try and convince myself that was a vacation because I'd be in some really, cool place and I go, okay, I'll just take this extra day and I'll have a little vacation. And then I took my first real vacation for 2 weeks and I was like, oh, I get this now. There's definitely a difference in this um, turning it off, which takes a couple days, knowing you got to turn it back on, and that piece in the middle of getting a little clearer and the benefits of turning it off a bit. So, what's the boldest vision for Boxy in the next 5 years?
well, we're going to go back to the numbers just for a second, but then I'll tell you the non-number. I'd love to be $100 million business in 5 years, and but for me, the biggest vision is that if we can change the stat, you know, and Boxy increases the probability of an entrepreneur to be successful, I will have done my job. You know, everybody knows the stat: one out of 100 companies raise Series A, and if I can get 10 of them to raise Series A, I've won. I've won. We've changed the stat. We've increased that success. And that's done obviously by finding the right investors, by that matchmaking and that collaboration and transparency. It's not just on their own, right? And so that's really what I would, if we can change the game and change the outcomes, I think that's a win. That's a win.
Good, good, good. What shifts in culture are lighting you up right now?
That's a loaded question.
Yes,
There's a lot going on right now.
there's a lot
A
going
lot
on,
of
but
shifts, some of them you might agree with, some of them you might not agree with.
what's lighting you up?
Um, so despite, I think, the fear of AI, I do think that, hopefully we're not going to mess that up for the human race. I think there's still a lot of benefits around that computational power that can help save lives, um, you know, hopefully teach kids more than what they've been, just that knowledge and bringing that knowledge to more people. Obviously, again, I'm thinking unbiased, but I know there's, taking that on the side, right? So I think I do believe that if we do it right, AI can be a force for good. And so I'm really excited to see what happens. I'm not saying I have no concerns, but yeah, it's like
Yes, yeah,
a kind of thing. Um, I think we're in an interesting political situation in general, not just in this country, just in general. It's been 100 years almost since we have had a big conflict. There's plenty of conflicts, but not a big one. So unfortunately, some of us that track history, it's cyclical. So what does that mean? What's coming? Is something coming? And that's an interesting play. Are we going to have a change in the old guards of capitalism versus everything else? Is something else going to emerge now? That would be interesting. I think it might be time. I don't know what it would be quite yet, but so I think that's fun. I mean, it's fun. Again, there's a scary part and there's a fun,
yes, yes, yes.
hopeful
There,
part. And then, I think again, that's more like a trend that, I mean, I just, I've published a book, French Lending, and it talking about one of the chapter is, race. One chapter is religion. One chapter is, me lending as a French young girl in the US, right? But I think it's true somewhere else is I would like to see, or I'm hoping there will be a change in how we're all seeing each other and helping each other and working with each other and the us versus them in any
yes,
parts of the world, by the way. I'm not talking here. I'm talking Asia. I'm talking like we're all culprits. Every country is culprit. And so, I really hope that that changes, to be honest. And I think I'm seeing it in some places, not in others. But I think it's time, to be
yes,
honest. I'm hoping maybe tech will be, I don't know, maybe tech could be a
yeah.
thing that just,
Let's have a little unity.
right.
Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I want to know, and I'm sure there are viewers out there that want to know because someone's watching this and they're thinking about stepping their foot out into being, an emerging leader, or maybe they're thinking about founding something. What would you give them as some advice? What would you share with them if they were just getting started?
Yeah, I think so one, make sure that's what you want. Don't do it because you're getting, pushed to do it. I think that's a very personal choice, to be honest. Like, is that something you want to pursue? Second is find the opportunities that broadens your network as well as maybe challenge your skills, like complementary skills. I mean, at PwC, I ended up um, getting promoted, but like, getting into leadership position faster because I was always willing to try or help on internal project, not just external and selling, but hey, okay, let's write a paper about this. Yeah, sure, I'm in, right? And so building that portfolio of experiences and skill set, I think, is something that really helps as you step into the leadership role. And I think that's, very, very important. That builds that network of supporters as well as just your readiness for leadership. And I think, the last point is um, it's interesting. I don't know how to phrase it exactly, but be a long life learner. I think people think that when you get to leadership position, that's it, right? That's the end of it. And funnily enough, I have worked with other leaders, with C-suite executive, my peers, and somehow I always ended up the more knowledgeable leader in the company because I would just meet with everybody and just put myself down and say, hey, I'm just here to understand what are you struggling with, what's going on. And so I think that's the last piece again, like be a lifelong learner, not just around your skill set, but as you're taking those leadership position, learning not just your function or what you're responsible for, but really across makes you a way more valuable leader, more attractive, like from a team player, understanding people's challenges. And leadership is a team sport. I mean, even as a CEO, you have to rely on people. You're not successful just because of you. Again, I'm not talking like a freelancer. Like if you're going to have some kind of business that's not just freelancing, you're going to need that. It's a team sport. Like we all win together or we all fall together. And so you have to be able to relate to those other leaders. And for you to do that is to understand what they're working on, what they're struggling with, right? And so I
Yes.
think that's the last piece really for me.
Good, good. You know, if your younger self were watching this podcast, what would you tell her?
One, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. Two, hi, you never thought you would end up here. I know I had this very French old school linear. I was thinking I was going to make partner at PwC, stay there forever, and that was going to be my career. So, um, and three, I would say, don't forget to have fun, because I think sometimes I've spent more time, thinking of
Yes.
a workaholic and oh my God, this has to get done, and yeah, no, nothing
Yeah.
is gonna.
Time
Everybody
goes
would
by.
die,
Time
you know what
goes.
I mean?
Yeah, time goes by quickly. Be sure to have a little fun and along the way. Elizabeth Bykoff with Boxsy, you have been a delight today. Tell the viewers where they can find Boxsy and tell us again what Boxsy does.
Sure. You can find Boxsy at boxsy.io, boxsy.io. You can contact me on LinkedIn. Feel free. Always happy to meet new people, touch base if I can help or anything like that. And then, yeah, we're really trying to change the face of fundraising for startup founders and investors. And so really, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or even thoughts, of things I
Wonderful.
have thought about. So yeah.
Thank you for being on Opening Pathways today.
No, thanks for having me, Tom.
It's a delight. Yes. So, and to my viewers, this has been Opening Pathways with Tom Lenoble, and I'll see you next time.